always gardening and prepping. My name is Teresa. I'd like to welcome you out to the shed of many names on this cool day, well, this afternoon. And today we're going to be making a very old-fashioned recipe, one I've been looking forward to getting to remake and make a video out of it. Now, we're going to be making old-fashioned homemade apple fritters. Yes, I love apple fritters. They're up in the top 5 favorite donuts that I love. And this is a very old recipe. I found it about, at least maybe 25 years ago. And it came out of a very old Southern church community cookbook. And you better believe I snagged it. And I added a few little extras to it. And these apple fritters are amazing. Now, I will go into more detail as I'm making the recipe. And as always, the recipe for anything that I cook or can will always be in the description box below the video. Everybody, I hope you enjoy. Let's get busy. Now, the first thing we're going to make is the glaze that goes on top of the fritters when they come out of the oil from being cooked. And this is an amazing glaze. It's good for other donuts. It's good to go on top of cakes. You can, if you like sweet biscuits, it's good on that. It's good on fry bread. Let me tell you, it's just good. Now, it is sweet, so if you're diabetic, I'm not too sure what you could substitute for it because I do not advocate for Splenda or any of that nasty crap. First off, we're going to need a cup of powdered sugar. And I usually use just a little bit above a cup, because you never know if your powdered sugar is real dry or if it's really moist, but you can always fix it as you go. And I love this little bowl. It has a pour spout on it, which makes it so much easier to use. Next, I'm going to want a tablespoon of vanilla, and you better believe it, this is homemade vanilla, y'all. Oh my gracious. I finally found where my vanilla was hiding at. And that's a tablespoon of vanilla. And it's not imitation vanilla, it's the real stuff. Okay, I want a teaspoon of cinnamon. And of course, this is my favorite cinnamon in the world, and unfortunately, I'm getting low on it. It's Saigon cinnamon. To me, it tastes and smells the best. Now, on this, I'm using half and half. I would use cream, but, well, can't really afford that right now. Now, if you can't have dairy, definitely use almond milk. Please don't use soy milk. You can use whole milk. You can use 2% milk. 1% milk is just water. Don't waste your money on that. And what we're going to do is you're going to want 3 tablespoons. I'm just going to eyeball it. And of course, if it's too much, you can always add more powdered sugar. And you're going to want to whisk it very well. And don't worry one bit, because of the vanilla and the cinnamon. It's a darker glaze. So no need to use just powdered sugar and milk. Make it good. You're going to go to make something homemade. Make it good. Go the 9 yards. And of course, taste it. I'm going to add just a tad bit more cinnamon. Now, of course, you taste it. Make it to the way you want it to taste. But you want to whisk it really good. Make sure it gets completely incorporated. And as you can tell, no lumps. You don't want any lumps. And that's about how you want it to look. And of course, taste it one more time. Perfect. And what I'm going to do is set this aside. And we're going to get busy with making the actual apple fritter batter. Now, the recipe calls for 2 large Granny Smith apples. Well, the prices they want for 2 large Granny Smith apples, I was able to get a bag of smaller Granny Smith apples, and to make 2 large, I only used 4 small ones. Now, of course, they need to be peeled, cored, and small dice. Of course, now I have my peelings and my cores in half a gallon jar, because I'm going to add a few more apples to it, and I'm going to start another batch of vinegar. Now, I did find out something interesting when I was doing the apples. Every plant, apparently, knows something's up, and they have gone just berserk and germinating and thriving and coming up earlier than they should inside those apples. Look what I found. And yes, I saved the seeds. Did you see that? The apple seeds germinated inside the apples. You know what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to plant these babies, every one, and that's roots on them. I've got to untangle a couple, but you betcha I'm planting these babies in hopes that Granny Smith apple trees come up. We shall see. And those that don't have roots, I'm going to be doing the paper towel trick. Alright, I'm going to clean some of this up, get the other ingredients, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, now on to make the apple fritter batter. And I'm going to mix all my dry ingredients first so I can keep using the same measuring cup. You want 1 cup of flour. Now I'm just using all-purpose flour. If you're gluten-free, you're just going to have to experiment with this recipe. It can probably be done with gluten-free bread, gluten-free flour, I mean. You're just going to have to experiment with it, because I don't use gluten-free. Sorry about that, everyone. You want 1½ teaspoons of baking powder. 1½ Okay, now here's where it gets interesting. It doesn't call for regular sugar. It calls for 1/3 of a cup of powdered sugar, which I found it interesting for a recipe that old to call for powdered sugar. But you know what? In it goes. And let me tell you, it makes it really good. Okay, we want a half a teaspoon of salt. And of course, as always, I'll be using my Himalayan pink salt. And people, you've got to realize salt is a preservative and a flavor enhancer as well. Now we're going to want 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. And I'm using Saigon cinnamon. You can use whatever cinnamon you have on hand. Oh no. Well, that's the last of my Saigon cinnamon. Oh, it smells so good. Now here's a nice little twist. Now if you have, I'm going to be using nutmeg. Now if you have whole nutmegs like I do, definitely going to want to use them. If you only have nutmeg powder, use that. Use what you have. And I was blessed to get this on clearance, and you better believe I bought every container. All those nutmegs for a little over $3. And they're dry. They're going to stay good for a very long time. And we're going to want a teaspoon of nutmeg. No, half a teaspoon. I'm sorry. Because nutmeg can be overpowering. And yes, I eyeball things. And see, once you get done, put it back in there, because guess what? It's going to be perfectly fine. Okay, now you're going to want to whisk this together. Make sure all your ingredients get mixed very well. Okay, now for our wet ingredients. Now, if your flour is very dry, you might have to use a little more liquid. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to use 1/3 cup of half and half. Which is probably going to need just a tad bit more. You can use whole milk, 2% milk, even though I don't like 2% milk, but that's beside the point. If you can't have dairy, you can use almond milk. Just please avoid the soy. And we're going to need 1 egg. One beautiful, use what egg you have, and 1 big, beautiful brown egg. We're going to pour that right in. And we're going to whisk that around. You don't want it real runny, but you don't, whoops, you sure don't want to do that. Hit. I said, never a dull moment around here. I'll tell you right now, it's going to need a little more milk. Now this, you're going to want a solid spoon, because that's what you're going to, yeah, it's going to need more milk. Because my flour is really, really dry. But you don't want to do too much because you don't want it runny. You want the batter just right. You want to stir it real good. Make sure that you don't have any flour lumps on the bottom. I'm going to add just a tad bit more. And my flour is really dry. I'm actually surprised that it's this dry with all the humidity we've been having. And let me tell you, we've been getting plenty of rain. But it also means that my flour is stored very well. You're just going to have to eyeball it and start with a third of a cup and keep an eye on your batter. So you want it to be able to spoon out easily, but you don't want it to run. See, that's real good and thick. And now we're going to add our apples. And like I said, small dice. Equivalent amount to 2 Granny Smiths. 2 large Granny Smiths. You want to get it mixed in very well. You want it chunky with apples. That's another reason why I really, really enjoyed this recipe when I first made it. Because you know for a fact you're having an apple fritter. Look at that, just beautiful. It makes your heart happy to see homemade like this. And let me tell you, it smells amazing. Oh my gracious, that's good. Kind of reminds me, just the batter, of a good old-fashioned homemade spice cake. And I got stuff all over me. That's all part of cooking. Alright, I got my cookie sheet set up, and I'm fixing to go check the oil. I'm going to reposition the camera over at the cook stove, and I'll see you back here in just a little while. Okay, my oil in my skillet is up to temp. You want it at least 350 degrees to fry in. I've got my cookie sheet lined with parchment paper, my rack so that the oil can drain off of, and any extra glaze that falls off the fritters. Now I'm using corn oil because I refuse to use vegetable oil anymore, because vegetable oil is nothing but pure soybean oil. And I actually prefer peanut oil to fry in, but that stuff's getting a little expensive. So you do with what you got. And you're going to get a spoonful of the fritter batter. That's what you want to see. You want to see a sizzle going. want to make no mess if possible. And I do about 3 at a time because I don't want my oil to drop temperature too much. I'll move this over here. And you want to fry each side until they're golden brown. You want to take any little pieces out of your oil so they don't burn and ruin your oil. And I use a slotted spoon and usually a meat fork to be able to flip them over. And that's what you want to see, your oil dancing. Oh my gracious, it smells so good in here. It is smelling so wonderful. You can smell the cinnamon, you can smell the apples. That little piece is in a vortex between them. And you want to make sure that they get very nice golden brown. And they puff up. These aren't like those little bitty skinny fritters that you buy other places. They get big and thick and fluff up, and they're just wonderful. And this is why you use a slotted spoon to bring them up out of the oil. Let them drain for a little while. And once you get your next batch in, that's when you glaze them. Look how much they fluffed up. Aren't they beautiful? Oh, they smell so good. Let's get this second batch going. Move the glaze for a minute. We're going to play juggle. And you can move them around a little bit so they get a little wider, or you can leave them like they are. see, we're going to juggle with the glaze. No, y'all getting too close to one another now. Spread out. And of course, do a little whisk on your glaze. And gently drizzle your glaze on top so you don't lose too much of it. Because you want most of your glaze to stay on it. Whoop. I tell you, I absolutely love homemade apple fritters. And they're so easy to make. And they taste so much better when they're made from scratch. Because you know exactly what's going in them. These are nice, fluffy, thick ones. They're not those little skinny ones. And it smells so wonderful. I guess the red baron's flying over. Sorry about that, y'all. Waiting to hear Snoopy go by. And you want to make sure you get them even on your rack. That way the glaze doesn't run off of them as easy. Because you want the glaze on them. And of course, if you don't want the glaze, you can leave the glaze off. Let's see. Looks like I got about 2 more to go. Oh, they smell so wonderful. Of course, you can go lighter with the glaze, you can go heavier with the glaze, or you can leave the glaze completely off. Oh, looks like we're doing synchronized frying here. So these are wonderful delight to have with a really good cup of coffee or hot chocolate, or if you're a tea person, a good cup of hot tea or milk, the old standby milk. But they are wonderful and so easy to make. And looks like this batch made 8. They usually make anywhere between 6 to 8 apple fritters. Now if you make them thinner, use less batter, you can get anywhere from 10 to 12. But you're going to really be stretching it down. I usually shoot for 8. Cut all off. Okay, I'm going to set these over here. And you might have a little bit of glaze left over. That's fine. I know you can find other uses for it. If not, make another batch of apple fritters. You can make peach fritters, cherry fritters, whatever fruit you enjoy. Set this over here for now. Alright, I'm going to let them cool down and I'll bring you back so I can try one. Okay, they have cooled down some, and I know it's not the typical icing for your fritters. Most people are used to a white icing. I like this icing a whole lot better. It just marries with the fritter. Let's see if it's going to be, oh, look at that. Beautiful. Mm. Oh my gracious. It's trying to fall apart on me. Oh, you can taste the vanilla, cinnamon, the apples. It's absolutely amazing. And I hope you enjoy these as well. Now, you're going to want to make sure that they're thin when they go into the pan. That way they can expand and cook. But yeah, absolutely amazing. I hope you enjoy this recipe and you try it at home as well. Now, you can use a Fry Daddy if you need to, or a deeper Dutch oven will work great for the frying. It's simple, it's easy, and anybody can do this, and they turn out wonderful. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. I hope you try this recipe. If you do, please let me know how it turns out for you. I'm fixing to finish my fritter and enjoy me some more coffee. Everyone take care. Stay safe out there. I look forward to seeing you in my next video, and may you each be blessed. I'll see you soon.